to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't see any young people in the audience this evening, so Sarah, have you ever led us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes this evening, Mayor.
Council, any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We have no scheduled public communications this evening. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Sir, want to come forward and give us your name and address, please?
My address is 7375 Northwest 107th Street, Johnston, Iowa. Last week, I mailed letters to the mayor, council members, and the city manager regarding 2 code violations that I've received. Had this been a normal situation where we knowingly purchased a property in Johnston and placed prohibited items on the property and received a code violation, I wouldn't be here. I would have no justifiable reason not to comply with the complaints. I believe that our situation is different. As I mentioned in my letter, in 2002, we moved to our home that was under the jurisdiction of unincorporated Polk County. There was a property adjacent to us, which was a 70-acre farm. We performed due diligence before we purchased the property. We contacted Polk County to see what the future development plans were for the area. Based on the location and elevation, we were told that sanitary sewer would not be practical and that the likely development would be low density with large estate lots. It would be big enough to accommodate their own septic systems. So we purchased that property and called it home. We had been displaced earlier from a road project in Polk County. We had a property of 9 acres. So we took 9 acres worth of our goods and placed them on the new 2.72 acre property that we now own. In 2006, a developer purchased the farm next to us. He petitioned for and received annexation from the city of Johnston. Silverstone Plat 1 was the very beginning of change in our area. When the development plan was presented at the city council meeting, the public was invited to comment. As I recall, most of the existing residents in that area were not happy about this proposed plan. It was much higher density than was originally anticipated. We were concerned about how this development may affect our country lifestyle of living. During the meeting, the developer assured the existing residents that their lives would not be disrupted because of this plan. He was setting aside a 60-foot buffer between existing residents and the new development. He also said he would plant trees on that buffer to enhance the separation. The city council appeared to have accepted that statement as well because the development plan was approved. My takeaway from that meeting was that we could continue to live our lives the way we had the previous 4 years and for the time to come in the future. The next 19 years showed dramatic growth and change in this area. Johnston's annexation continued to the south and around us. In 2020, we found out that we were going to be annexed. It was time during COVID and no public meetings were allowed. We had no choice. We had no recourse or ability to refuse annexation into the city of Johnston. Our life as Johnston residents proceeded as it had the previous 18 years until March, when we received the first code violation. When I received that, I was devastated. I've always tried to be a good person by following the rules and the law. This notice made me feel like I was a criminal. The following weekend, we complied with the notice and we moved the car, a tractor, and many other things that the city deemed as junk to another location. I contacted Mike and requested a meeting. When I met with Mike, I was very upset. I told him about the circumstances of why we moved to 107th Street. I showed him a picture of the after, of the work that we completed after the code notification. I told him that I made a good faith effort to comply with those requests. Mike contacted the compliance officer who was in the office, in the building, and she came in and I showed her the picture. Again, I told them that I had done what I was asked to do. I also explained that I had a passion to save old cars, trucks, and tractors. They thanked me for coming in and said they would have to check into the matter more thoroughly. Is that an accurate of our meeting? So I waited. After 2 months, I had heard nothing about the complaint. I believed that my actions had satisfied the city as well as the resident that took the time and effort to complain against our property. And I went about my life until September, when I received the second notice and the second list of demands. The demands in the second notice are going to be very detrimental to our lives. We've lived in that property for 23 years with the belief that we could age in place with our belongings. The assurance we received in 2006 that our lives wouldn't be disrupted because of Johnston's entry into that area apparently ended because someone filed a formal complaint about our property. We were informed our property doesn't meet code, but there are times even in Johnston where the code is set aside. From 1905 to 1965, cars and trucks were manufactured without seatbelts. If a citizen has one of those vehicles that's roadworthy, licensed, and insured, they can legally drive on any road in Johnston. They existed in that condition before the code, therefore they're exempt and they're grandfathered in. Over the years, Johnston has changed its building code many times. And with each one of those changes, a larger number of buildings no longer meet code, but yet they're allowed to exist. They're grandfathered in. In addition, those vehicles and houses can be bought and sold any number of times. They can remain out of compliance indefinitely. Our residency predates Johnston Code by 18 years. I'm requesting that code enforcement against us be temporarily paused for 6 months. To immediately comply with the demands given us will be a severe hardship in terms of logistics and expense. If we can have additional time, we can dramatically reduce the difficulty of this action. We had no control over the development that occurred in our area. It didn't go as we planned. We were absorbed into Johnston, and we're being forced to comply with a much more restrictive set of rules than we had before. Every action that the city has made has been completely legal. But just because it's legal, is it fair? I know that this is an unusual request, but I am asking again if we can have a 6-month pause on enforcement of this violation. I thank you for your time and for your decision.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for being here this evening. I think that, I really appreciate you sharing your concerns with us. You've done it very thoughtfully and very respectfully. And we don't always get that.
That's my intention. This is no one's fault. It's just the way things happened, and apparently the wrong person was upset, and now we're having to face the consequences of that.
Well, we'll have some additional conversation, and I appreciate you making your request tonight. I think it's reasonable, but we need to have some more conversation, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Graber, for coming. And certainly we'll have conversations with staff. We always want to work with property owners. And so let me have some discussions with staff just to see and understand what are the issues that are like, because I am not aware exactly what are at light or what the current concerns are. And then we'll be in contact with you. Does that sound fair? Yep, thank you.
We are still under public communications. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Sir? Oops. Sorry? Oh, somebody else had their hand up. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Trent Walraven. I live at 6000 Northwest 62nd Ave over in Residence 62 West. I'm a relatively new resident here to Johnston, Iowa, having moved in just a couple months ago. And having moved in, I pretty rapidly saw that the Johnston Police Department uses the Flock license plate security cameras in and out of Johnston. And being curious and knowing some of the history about Flock, I wanted to look at the transparency report that Johnston has, as that's a tool that police departments can use to show what they're doing to the public with these cameras. And looking at that report, I noticed that the Johnston Police Department chooses to exclude multiple of the transparency options that are available, including the organization's granted access to Johnston's Police Department's data and a public search audit field. Going and looking back at the proposal that originally had these cameras installed back in 2024, there's a number of cities listed as examples of these systems in use around us, and that these cameras would build onto this system of network and network with them. Many of these cities, such as Clive, Indianola, West Des Moines, and even the bordering Urbandale, all have those additional transparency records available to the public to use. No, but we do not. And even looking at the success stories described in that very same proposal, 4 out of the 5 of those agents of those success stories and those agencies have those increased transparency reports that we do not. So I would like to ask why the police department has chosen to hide that data from the public, and also urge the council to consider requiring that the police department increase that transparency to mirror that of the agencies around us.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Our police chief is not here with us this evening, so we will need to get back to you in response to your questions, and we will do that. We do have his name and address. How about your telephone number? Why don't you give us your telephone number as well?
Yes, 641-820-0880. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
We'll get back to you. Thank you. Did anyone else have their hand up? Apparently not. Okay, this is public communication. We are still under public communications. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. And we have 3 public hearings this evening. The first one, item 4A, conduct a public hearing and consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 1151, vacating a water main easement located in Century Trace Plat 1, an official plat in the city of Johnston, Polk County, Iowa. We'll open this public hearing at 7:20. Matt?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It was discovered earlier this year that when the Century Trace townhomes were originally constructed in the early 2000s, the water main was not fully constructed within the platted water main easement. Earlier this year, we did create, and Council did approve, a new water main easement to encompass the entire public portion of that water main system within the Century Trace townhomes. Tonight is the first of 3 readings of ordinance 1151 to vacate the old water main easement that's no longer needed. Be happy to answer any questions.
Else have any questions? This is a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:21. Do we have a motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 1151?
Move approval. Second?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 4B, conduct a public hearing to consider resolution number 25-277, approving and authorizing conveyance of an easement interest in real property to the city of Des Moines, Iowa. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:22. Matt?
Good evening. The city staff has worked with Des Moines Waterworks for them to acquire a 60-foot easement, water main easement, to install a 36-inch water main and a potential future 36-inch parallel water main. This connects their Saylorville Water Treatment Plant to the Tenney Tower that is ultimately connected to the Fluor Water Treatment Plant. So it connects those two systems. They hadn't been connected before. You can see on the map that's on the screen, the project corridor that goes from just south of the Lithia car dealership that's on the west side of the Merle Hay Road Bridge, goes through the private development, and then right where the yellow meets the pink shaded area, that's part of the easement that we're talking about, that as well as the green that was west of Merle Hay Bridge. But that's the project corridor. It goes through the green belt, through our new dog park, and then they did acquire private easements along Beaver Drive as well as along Johnston Drive. The water main, like I said, does run from the intersection of Northwest 62nd Avenue and Northwest Beaver Drive to that tie-in point that's just south of Lithia car dealership there. And the water main easement is being granted tonight. Does run, like I said, in that area, that green area west of Merle Hay Bridge. So this actually, if you're looking at this, Johnston Drive is here on the north side of this easement plat. This would be the portion that runs through the dog park. And then this goes down the interurban trail greenbelt area and then turns and goes on to private development. Second piece of that easement is west of Merle Hay Bridge. Here's Merle Hay Road at the top, and then runs west to that tie-in point to the end of their project. That's just south of the Lithia car dealership again. Des Moines Waterworks has acquired, like I said, additional private easements. The remainder of that project is with landowners, private landowners. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about this project.
Does council have any questions for Matt? This is a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we will close this public hearing at 7:24. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 25-277?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Reddy,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Pope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to item 4C, conduct a public hearing and consider approval of the first reading of ordinance number 1154, official zoning map amendment to rezone 0.81 acres from R1 100 large lot residential district to C1 neighborhood commercial district with conditions. We'll open this public hearing at 7:25.
Good evening, council. So Site and Structure LLC has submitted an application to rezone property located at 9401 Northwest 70th Avenue from R1 100 Large Lot Residential District to the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District with conditions to allow for the conversion of an accessory structure to a beverage stand. A little bit about the property. The subject property is the site of the former Wren's greenhouse. The property has operated as a greenhouse starting in 1990, and the property has not functioned as a residential use since then. The Board of Adjustment granted a perpetual special use permit for a greenhouse on July 17th, 1990. The special use permit runs with the land. It is not affected by a change in zoning. On October 1st, 1990, the site plan was approved by City Council, and then on May 16th last year, the Board of Adjustment granted an amendment to that site plan. The changes included demolition of the easternmost greenhouse, one-age spruce tree, the gravel driveway, and PCC paving removal. Replacements included a 6-foot tall fence along the south property line, and 150 feet on the west property line, and a 30 by 26 building addition to the building directly adjacent to the greenhouse. Additionally, the installation of 7 off-street parking spaces was deferred until directed by the Board of Adjustment, and construction of the sidewalk on Northwest 93rd Court was deferred until directed by the city. Additionally, at the same time, the Board of Adjustment granted a variance relating to architectural materials. As previously stated, the site is currently zoned R1 100, and the proposed zoning district is the C1 neighborhood zoning district. They meets all bulk regulations, though at the time, as of right now, no actions require amendments to the site plan. Any site plan amendments do come up or that needs to be done, that'll be done through the site plan review process. The comprehensive plan, Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan identifies the future land use for the subject property as suburban residential. The area immediately surrounding the property is shown as suburban residential on the 2040 future land use map. Further east and west at the intersections of Northwest 170th and Peckham and 70th, we have areas identified as commercial as well. Staff has mailed notice out to the public within 250 feet of right of way. As a publication of the staff report, we have received several phone calls and a petition that meets the 20% threshold as required per section 190.02.B.3.F, requiring that a supermajority of city council to approve it. Majority of those phone calls and questions were regarding parking, just appearance, and just general use as well. The Planning and Zoning Commission did, after hearing from city staff and the public as well as the applicant, recommended approval. They did change the recommendation. They recommended approval with only allowing the following uses: the specialty coffee and food store and small standalone retail and service. I can answer any questions. I know we have representatives from the applicant here as well and members of the public.
Does council have any questions for Jacob?
Jacob, I do have a couple of questions for you. The first of which has to do with the kind of packet that was provided of information. And one of the pieces was the approved site plan. That was from the original proposal in 2024, is that correct? And how does that apply to what they're hoping to do if rezoning were to take place? In other words, how would this site plan change from that standpoint?
The site plan would still have to go through, if anything were to require site plan review, it would still go through our normal review process. As far as what was changing, nothing would change. As the only thing that we would see is on their easternmost building, this is the battery, is where they would look to put it in. So no new buildings are being built. Nothing is being would be constructed, as far as my knowledge, is the conversion of the existing structure into a beverage stand. So if anything were to happen that were to trigger a site plan review, it would still go through our site plan review.
I did have a chance to read through the petition that came forward. It appeared that there was at least a letter and then maybe some comments with regard to loudspeaker concerns, also alcohol. Can you comment on those? And quite frankly, are these provisions that we would be approving or considering for approval tonight allowing any of those type of concerned activities?
They would not allow any of those concerned activities. As far as the alcohol on the premises for alcohol permit, I don't know. That doesn't come through us. I believe that goes through Cindy's office. So I think she'd be better able to answer that question. As far as what would be allowed, it would only be those two allowed uses, which would be the specialty coffee and food store and the small standalone retail. So the standalone retail is kind of what they're asking for their store next to them to bring it up. And then the specialty coffee and food store is what allows them to have that beverage stand. Then as far as noise and everything like that, we have our noise ordinance, and that would still require, that doesn't change by zoning. That's a city ordinance.
So this proposed change though would allow a loudspeaker? If it's still met or didn't, I guess if our noise ordinance still applied. I mean,
if it met our noise ordinance, then it would meet our noise ordinance and be allowed. We don't have anything that would prohibit a speaker or any of that nature, as long as it met our noise ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Jacob?
Yeah, I do. Couple of questions, Jacob. Looking at the petition, everything, they're selling non-alcoholic drinks, right?
Correct.
And the C1 commercial, that thing, consider that long-term, the C1, if we change it to C1, if a new owner comes into that Charlie Ray's location, they can sell alcohol.
No, the only allowed uses, again, would be that specialty coffee and food store and the small standalone store and retail service. So if-
My question is, if this zoning is changed to C1, neighborhood commercial district, what does that mean? Does that mean future they cannot sell alcohol at all?
they would have to meet, it would still meet the conditions of the rezoning. So if they were wanting to sell alcohol or change the use other than the two allowed uses, then they would have to come back, go through the rezoning process and ask for those.
All right, that makes good. And in the reading the petition up here, and it says several things about noise, traffic, and light, and all those things. So how late are they open according to this?
According to the zoning,
Well, not according to zoning. As of now, Charlie Ray opens until 9 p.m., 1 a.m.
I would defer that question to the applicant. I don't know the hours off the top of my head of Charlie Ray's, but again, I'll go back to off-street. We handle off-street parking. On-street parking is allowed on 93rd Court. And then for noise complaints and noise ordinance, that still applies. That is not a zoning, that does not change with the zoning of anything.
Okay, all right. And one of the things I read in the emails that Ms. Brown sent us said it's mostly for cycling. People come by and stop, have a drink, sit down, drink, and move forward. So the petition also mentions something about people driving in and parking and doing this. So I'm just curious about the timing. So if Ms. Browns could explain to us how long the Charlie Ray's open, that could be helpful.
I would defer that question to the applicant.
That'll be great. Thanks.
Other questions for Jacob? Seeing none. Would the applicants like to make comments?
Good evening, council. My name is Matt Brown, 9401 Northwest 70th Avenue, and Nancy Brown. Both of actual home is 9593 Northwest 74th in Johnston. Here to address any questions that you might have of us regarding, I guess, the things that have already come up.
Yeah, I think the first question asked was the one of the questions that the petition, the people around your neighborhood has asked that, will there be noise? Will there be people putting on bright lights? I think that most of the concern comes from how late you're open in the daytime, in the weekdays and weekends.
So you want to answer the question about the
Sure.
hours of operation?
Sure. Right now, Sundays and Mondays, we are closed. And then Tuesday through Friday, 11 to 5, Saturday, 10 to 4. But then through Christmas, we're open on Sunday from 12 to 4. And then right after Christmas, we will be closed again on Sundays and Mondays. So we are done at 5 o'clock. There has been 2 events, though, that we've raised money for Dress for Success. And we were there at 8 o'clock at night. But we were all done by 8 o'clock at night.
That probably answers that question I had. Thank you.
Other questions for the applicants?
Do you anticipate traffic flow around the property to change at all if this rezoning were to take place?
I do not. When we first opened, I know that we were concerned and we heard a lot of concern about how traffic had functioned in this site. Specifically, when it was Rent a Greenhouse back in the day, they would have essentially the mum sale was a big event for them. And then also when the Gardner Club had been there, they took all of 95th, all of 93rd, all of the site. So there's a lot of concern, rightfully so, about how this site had operated before we were there. When we first opened up on the grand opening, we were actively managing parking, albeit I will admit that it wasn't perfect. but also we did receive complaints for things that were not related to our site. It could have been other events going on in the neighborhood, or matter of fact, one day we got a complaint for tree removal and deck build, and we let people park in our drive. We have been accommodating to allow people to park in the lot when there's other things going on in the neighborhood. We are to the point now that the last, I would say, 2 times that we've had even on a Saturday between 10 and 4, we do manage the parking. I manage it myself. I'm out there watching where people are parking. And yes, there have been occasions where we've had some people parking along 93rd Street going to the south, but it's been limited, probably 8 to 10 vehicles at most early on.
But please know, this is a public street.
Correct.
You are always allowed to park on a public street. And please know that there is nowhere that the city has put a no parking sign on any side of the street.
But we are mindful of the fact that we're trying not to create an issue for our neighbors. And we do manage the parking. We know that there are things that happened before us. We know there are things that have happened since us. And I do respect the concerns from the neighbors to say, hey, what would happen after us? And so honestly, the only reason we are requesting C1 is because there are no conditional use provisions in the Johnston Code that would allow us to sell a food or beverage on site. We can provide it for free, but we cannot sell it. And so back to your question, Councilman Burkhart, with regards to the site, there are no new structures planned. We have worked diligently to preserve the nature of the site and improve it. It would be within the 312 square foot garage that exists there today on the west end of the site is where this would be. And there's no other buildings proposed at all. So it wouldn't trigger a site plan review other than we will need to go through the process of applying for a permit to improve the interior of that space. But I will note that in all of these things that we're doing here, we've been adamant to make sure that we improve the neighborhood, bring this into compliance with everything that has been required of the site since 1990. And we are cognizant of the concerns of the neighbors prior to us and even what would happen after us. I do want to note that of the 32, I think the Planning and Zoning Commission conversation that we had was a productive conversation, and all of our neighbors were there, which was, I think it was good to hear their concerns. There are 32 allowed uses within C1, which would include a liquor store or a liquor whatever serving restaurant. That's not. We've excluded 30 of the 32 because there's no conditional use provision in the Johnston Code to say, hey, it's a C1, but only 2 of those 32 uses would be allowed on this site.
So we're only asking for 2.
So, and that's just to try to figure out how do we get here, not to change any of the use, not to create whatever I think has been concern or what have you. It's to continue what we're doing, but to add this non-alcoholic beverage stand is what we're proposing and asking or requesting.
And we are putting that restriction on ourselves.
Correct.
Matt, how many parking spaces, or Nancy, how many parking spaces do you now have?
So great question. We have 22 marked, but we actually on concrete paving, we have not marked in front of the trash dumpster, but we have another 9. So we have 31 available on concrete on site. And we can actually put them, we can parallel park along the 120-foot greenhouse, which remains. And there's easily another 7 stalls that we get there. So we're in the range of 38 cars that we can easily park on site, and I don't need to manage where they go or how they get in and out because it's easy for them to cycle through in a day. And sometimes we do have that on a Saturday, but if we know that's coming, I'm there to manage the process. So yeah, we have more stalls than the 23 that are there, 22.
Other questions for Nancy or Matt? Okay, we might ask you to come back up again.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we're here for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on this item?
Council, staff, my name's Dave Johnson. I live at 6820 Northwest 93rd Court, just south of the subject property. My first statement is that I am opposed to rezoning of this property. So I'm looking at this from the long-term perspective, not a business model, not the request of the applicant, but I'm thinking of a small lot being rezoned commercial amongst residential. We have commercial nodes along 70th at 100th, Peckham, and 86th. There's adequate commercial in that space. This is something that, to me, speaks highly of spot zoning. If council chooses, you can ask attorney to further define that for you, but I would consider investigating that. One other thing is that our comprehensive plan, which is what we live by in planning and zoning and in council, does not call for this to be commercial property. It is to remain residential property. Again, provide a little bit more background. It is R1 that has the special use allowed of a greenhouse, a commercial greenhouse, not an event center, not a specialty food store, just a greenhouse. And that was known when the applicant purchased the property. So we want to stay within, I guess I see it as staying within the allowed use. You'll hear later, there is overwhelming neighborhood opposition to changing of the zoning. Again, it's not looking at the immediate use. We're looking at 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road. Regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission, the other commissioners did what they felt best, trying to strike a balance between the needs of the immediate request and the neighborhood. Again, for reasons stated previously, I disagree with that decision. So in conclusion, I do not wish for this to be approved. Do you have any questions? Please let me know.
David, the other council members may not be aware, you are the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, I am the chairman of Johnston's Planning and Zoning Commission. I directed the conversation, but I withdrew from deliberation and vote out of deference for the applicant without trying to bias anything.
But it was approved by five members of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Or
Four?
reluctantly, I would say. So when it came to commission, it was actually, there was 2 allowed uses that were withdrawn. Commissioner Strickler reduced it down to the 2 remaining uses. So instead of 30 of 32, it went down to 2 of 32.
And David, why do you
I
say they
don't-
reluctantly approved it?
One thing that I don't feel that was
I mean, all we can read in the minutes is that they approved it.
correct, it was approved. One thing that I don't think that we understood, or maybe we comprehended, was that by the definition of City of Johnston ordinance, small retail includes facilities up to 50,000 square feet. Obviously, this site can't support something that large, but none of the residents are going to want a Dollar General or something of that more intense use later on, whenever it would change hands.
Any other questions for David?
Thank you.
Are there others in the audience who would like to address the council?
Mayor, council, attorney Stone, city staff, residents. My name is Angie Butler, and I have lived at 6820 Northwest 93rd Court for 28 years. I've been a very involved resident within the city, giving back my time and volunteering on boards, commissions, that kind of thing. So when you talk about invested, I'm invested. I'm speaking in opposition of the proposed rezoning of 9401 70th Avenue, yeah. A few points that I'd like to share. Number one, I'd like to reiterate what Jacob mentioned. Iowa Code Chapter 414.5 outlines that you must approve this by a supermajority if 20% of the residences or the properties within 200 feet say they are in opposition. The updated petition that I gave to Cindy tonight shows that we have at least 4 properties of the 9, which is almost 50% in opposition within 200 feet. And I can outline them if you want me to, but I believe they're highlighted on the petition. Secondly, I'd like to reiterate what David said about spot zoning. Spot zoning is generally illegal in Iowa if the purpose of the rezoning does not provide needed retail services to the neighborhood. Quote, spot zoning for the sole benefit of the landowner and contrary to the comprehensive plan is unreasonable, unquote, per the PZ 0011 Planning and Zoning Spot Zoning Iowa State Extension Fact Sheet, Summer 2025. And I'm sure that Christine Stone from Allers and Cooney can elaborate on that if you request that. As previously mentioned, the petition is indicating that the proposed zoning and subsequent retail services provided, or proposed, excuse me, are not needed by the neighborhood, per the petition. Thirdly, the comprehensive plan, as David said, is the guiding document, and going against it is highly, I won't specifically cross over into illegal, but is highly unrecommended to go against your own plan that you adopted in 2020 that's meant to last us through 2040. Lastly, the property's use as a the property's use as a greenhouse and retail space was granted through the special use permit in 1990. Chapter 166.04, Section 4E of the Johnston Municipal Code, however, states that non-conforming properties must be brought into conformance, quote, if any non-conforming use ceases for any reason for a period of more than 6 months. Any subsequent use of the land shall conform to the district regulations for the district in which such land is located, unquote. This property ceased to be a commercial greenhouse or nursery when the city bought the property from Chuck Rennis in 2017. So does it follow that the non-conforming status and special use permit should have ended then? Well, these are the objective facts. There are also human factors at play. While we appreciate the time and the work that the Browns have put into this property, and we welcome them to be good neighbors within the parameters of which they bought the property, the residents of Northwest 93rd Court have experienced negative effects in the increased traffic and activity at the greenhouse. On an almost daily basis, a resident is experiencing cars that are not looking when they're pulling in and out of the parking lot, backing up from the parking spots that are on the street right of way, or turning traffic onto the street. When Rennis owned the facility, we all knew and understood the seasonal nature of the traffic. May was a very busy time, but the rest of the year was not. Over the past year, Charlie Ray's has hosted 1 to 2 events each month. These include, but are not limited to, vendor pop-ups, fashion shows, book clubs, private parties, and classes, creating traffic that is no longer seasonal greenhouse traffic. Many of these, not many, but some of these events do take place after closing hours, specifically the private parties. When the entrance to the property moved from 70th Avenue to Northwest 93rd Court, it increased the demand on our small street, and adding more commercial business there would just make that worse. Each of these events also puts a strain on the parking on our street. For context, our street is smaller than the standard 26-foot local loop street serving fewer than 24 houses as it's outlined in the city code, chapter 194.04, section 2, and it has ditches on both sides. Our street is 22 feet wide. The street is wide enough for 2 vehicles to pass without driving off the pavement, but when cars are parked, it can be very difficult to get through. While the applicants will tell you that they monitor the parking, there have been many occasions when cars have been parked on both sides of the street, blocking resident driveways, and on at least one occasion, a car drove through a resident's yard. While the right-of-way is not owned by the resident, it is the responsibility of us to fix any problems that come with their parking there. On separate but related issues, I would also encourage the city council, the staff, the attorney, and the property owners to look into the Johnston Municipal Code, Chapter 100, as it pertains to the Wastewater Reclamation Authority and fog interceptors when they decide to remodel their garage building. Excuse me. And I would also highly recommend that the city staff look into Iowa Code, Chapter 123, pertaining to alcoholic beverage control, as there have been instances when they have skirted the line on whether or not a license is required. And I can show you the proof on that someday if you'd like. So for all of these reasons that I've stated, I'm asking you to vote no on the proposed rezoning. I thank you for your time and your dedication to the city and the residents. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Angela? Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Hello, I'm Jean Polk. I live at 6909 Northwest 93rd Court, and I have lived in my residence since 1969,
The year that we became an incorporated community.
before the city was actually a city. Times have changed, I realize that. We moved there and we bought an acre because that's what we wanted. There are no sidewalks on our street. There's no curb. And especially with the trail at the end of the street, our street is used for recreational purposes a lot. And I enjoy that, sitting in my sunroom in the summertime. I am against what is being proposed. When we moved there, it was rent as greenhouse, a greenhouse. That was it. It was busy maybe in the spring for maybe 2 weekends when they were selling their plants, but that was it. And now look at it. From what I understand what's going on, I am against proposal of what's going on. Please give me back my land and my lot and my street. We do not need any more congestion, people turning around in my driveway, people going up and down this street to turn around and go back. We are a quiet street. Please leave it that way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there others that would like to address the council on this item?
Council, my name is Jake Black, 6918 Northwest 93rd Court, Johnston. Basically, as the greenhouse was a seasonal business that had direct access to Northwest 70th, was soon taken away from the 70th Avenue. Following the closing of Rennes Greenhouse in 2017, due to the widening of the 70th Street, the only access is off 93rd Court, a gravel road with 22-foot wide asphalt overlay. Will not increase, or will not sustain this traffic. There's already increased traffic on this dead-end street. How much more traffic will a second business bring in? These are just questions I would have. Where are all these customers parked? I know they stated there's 30-some parking spots. I would like to see the plan of where those 30-some parking spots would be and are currently. Safety concerns, as Jean mentioned, there's kids riding bikes down the street, pushing of strollers, and the high school cross-country team runs down our street as well. Is more of a sidewalk, let alone a street. Noise and light pollution as well. The president and zoning integrity, how it's spot zoning. The neighborhood petition that we signed, the majority of the neighbors are against changing to the C1. This is not benefiting any needed retail services for this neighborhood. There's a Starbucks that just closed on Merle Hay that offers drinks. There's plenty of other soft drinks and other officers around the Merle Hay Grimes area. Property values, as C1 is classified, it's any small retail, like we've discussed, proposed exceptions of childcare and pet boarding for said applicant. But once this building is sold, what's to say a vape store, a liquor store, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, anything wants to go into that building, who wants to live next to any of that to hurt your property value. We're not concerned of what the business is now currently. We're concerned of what it can be in the future. As harmless as a dirty soda shop is, we as a residential neighborhood are looking to the future. There's plenty of open spots on Merle Hay. There's been built a brand new strip center on 62nd that has no vacancy right now. And a new strip center there that would better suit these C1 needs. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
Hello, I'm Amy Plymat. I live at 6892 Northwest 93rd Court. I moved there in 1992. As has been said by everybody else, the main concern is that if the zoning was changed, that what would happen in the future as far as some other business. And I was the one at the zoning meeting that kept insisting on no alcohol, because I felt that if that was going to be written into the into the restrictions, because a liquor store or a convenience store or a bar or a restaurant that sold alcohol would not be a good fit or welcomed by the neighbors. Somebody had suggested that the special use permit should be amended or changed just to allow the drinks or the coffees or such. We're not really upset with the idea of having, the business the way it is now. But I think they told me that there's no changing of the special use permit because it was issued in 1990. So other than a separate, unique special use permit that would allow the people to have a coffee shop type situation added to what they're trying to do, that would restrict 30 of the 32. Now, I don't know what the two things of the 32 were going to be, but obviously the applicants had suggested they would, not want any kind of gasoline fueling of cars to go in there. So unless a new special needs permit could be issued that would just allow them to have their coffee and tea, coffee shop, no alcohol, then I think we're done. That none of us want it to be zoned commercial because primarily of the future. We don't, if they sell a property, we don't want to see a convenience store or a liquor store or, obviously no laundromat will be there because it's single family homes all around. But, it's probably too small for gas station, but anyway, we would just like to have it kind of be the way it is and no more. And I had made the suggestion to the applicants that instead of having special pop-up events with 5 vendors and into the evening hours with tons of cars, that if they had just a trunk show 3 days a week and allowed one of the vendors to show their merchandise 1 day a week, there'd be cars in the parking lot. That would give them some business for their drink business, and there'd be cars in the parking lot, but not tons of cars and not all at once. And of course, it wouldn't be after 5 p.m. So I don't know, but beyond a new special use permit that would allow them to try and do what they're trying to do without zoning commercial, I think we're done. So anyway, thank you for your time and your consideration.
And I'm at 9340 Northwest 70th. I'm right across from Charlie Ray's, so I probably see them more than anybody else. My husband and I moved there in 2019, and it's when Johnson County used it for storage, whatever. We have seen such improvement since they have purchased the place. I'm so thankful that they are there. No disregard to what any of my neighbors have said. I appreciate their research, but I just wanted to say Charlie Ray's has been a very positive improvement in our neighborhood, and I'm glad that they're there. And there's a lot of people that have a lot more knowledge than me about all the ins and outs of this. I didn't prepare anything, but as their neighbor that I see them every day, I really appreciate them, and I'm glad that they're there. And that's all I got. I just wanted to say something positive because they've been awesome. And I do see them because I'm there, except when I'm traveling, directing traffic, trying to make sure if there's an event, make sure that people park in, and there are several I don't know if there's 30, I haven't counted, but there are a lot of parking spots there, but it fills up fast. But I'm really glad that they're there, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
Just a question.
You need to come up here and.
My name is Bill Kearns, and I also live at 9340 Northwest 70th Avenue. And what are the two provisions that we're talking about here?
And that, it may be helpful, that was one of the questions I was gonna have, and maybe if Jacob could pull up that neighborhood.
Clarify that for us.
Yeah, because I think that's, that code section that lists this neighborhood, commercial, so it's a neighborhood commercial district. And that, which is part of, so C1 is a commercial zoning class.
Yep.
And then inside of C1, there's something called a neighborhood commercial district, which only allows a list of 32 uses.
Okay.
And this would say that of those 32, for this location, it could only use the 2 of those 32. But I think without seeing the list, which I think if staff could pull that list up.
So is that in perpetuity?
Yeah,
Or is that if
Until
they
it's
sell it,
changed.
it changes? Or somebody can come back up here and say, I want to go full bore? I'm just asking. I mean, what is,
Let's have
yeah,
Jacob
that's
come
my
up here
question.
and,
that's a legitimate question. I mean, I think, you know, if, you know, it was going next to their house, they'd want to know that too. So it's
sure,
like,
right.
yeah.
right. So I think it would be helpful if maybe Cindy could pull up that code section.
Yeah.
And then we could see the full list. And then you can put it up on the screens for everybody to be able to see.
say also. Manage that, you know, sure, does stuff get away? Are people gonna do whatever they wanna do? Yeah, they're just do. But it is a small street, so we are trying to maintain that neighborhood feeling as well. So it's a sensitive thing, but they've been great neighbors, and I gotta tell you, they took a lot better place of it, care of it than Johnston did.
So
You're gonna have to make it a lot bigger than that.
I was trying to. So I'll scroll through this. So as I'm scrolling through this, what
wait a
is?
minute, Jacob. The audience is trying to see this as well. And Cindy, can you get that on the other screens?
I'm working, yep.
As I recall, the way neighborhood commercial district, because remember, we've had this discussion in the past around car washes, right? And so neighborhood commercial district allows for, in that zoning classification, there's a list of more restricted, it's not the full list of C1 commercial uses in a neighborhood. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but that was my understanding. And we've had this talk about this list of 32. So what I'd like for you to pull up is the list of 32, if that's possible.
I am not everything that I'm aware of is what it would be listed in this 169.1, the principal uses. We also have the accessory uses, which would be there. I don't have a knowledge of 32 specific uses unless it's 32 specifically in the C1 district. I haven't counted that, so I don't know off the top of my head if there are 32 exactly. What the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended was that only specialty coffee and food store and then small standalone retail or service would be the only allowed 2 uses, which would be from this table.
Okay, so but we, in other commercial, so for instance, and again, I can't, so maybe just tell us what the code site, what is code section is it?
I'm looking at code section 169.03.
Maybe Jacob, if you could describe again to all of us, what they have asked for is rezoning to a C1 neighborhood commercial district, and they would only be allowed to use it for these two purposes, correct?
Correct.
And if they or someone else at some future date wanted to use it for other purposes,
They would have to come back and go through this exact same process and would go with whatever, with the code section request.
so if this is approved tonight, the only changes in the way that they operate their business is that they would be allowed to offer specialty coffee and food store and small standalone store, retail or service. That's all their request and any action by this council would do.
That is correct.
That's it.
That
And
is correct.
Again, if they wanted to expand that in the future, they would have to come back, go through this process again.
Correct.
If they sold that facility, that business, and somebody else wanted to do something more than that, then they would have to go through the same process.
Correct, yes. The zoning, if it was sold, it would still have the same zoning classification, same conditions.
Yeah. So they can't sell alcohol, they can't,
That is correct.
And just so reference, so for instance, in this list of commercial uses, food or beverage, bar or drinking place is a current C1 use. Brew pub, restaurant drive-in, none of those would be allowed to be used in this location.
That is correct.
Because it's, the only one in food and beverage would be the specialty food or coffee shop.
Correct. We specifically used the uses from this table so that there were no,
And then if you then go down to the next classification of retail sales or services, automobile fueling would not be allowed.
correct.
Automobile repair and service,
Right.
major or minor, automobile sales, car wash, childcare center, community center, large standalone store, retail or service, off-site service business. So all of those types of businesses would not be allowed in this, on this site. The only two that would be allowed would be specialty food or coffee shop, or the small standalone store, retail or service. And because we're specifically calling out those two uses in it, if this would be approved, that automatically, it's clear that by our action, we're then not allowing those other types of uses to be used.
Correct. That was staff's reason for using the language that we have.
And even like a financial institution, because there's business, technical, or health services, those are all types of things that would not be allowed to be used, even though in theory, those are allowed to be, if it was C1 unlimited, those are all things that could be allowed. But because of those two, because of the restrictions, it narrowly tailors the use that can be used on that to those two things, those two uses.
That is correct.
Okay.
I heard from a couple of the commenters concerns about spot zoning. Christine, can you address that issue, please?
Sure. So there is case law in Iowa that discusses spot zoning. And spot zoning is generally when one piece of property is treated differently from the surrounding property. And I will agree that spot zoning is generally, in principle, disfavored. However, there is case law that says that not all spot zoning is illegal. Sometimes there is good reason to have spot zoning. And some of the cases discuss, where a property is particularly suited for a different type of use than its neighboring properties. So if a property, for example, has had a commercial greenhouse that's been established for more than 30 years, that's different than a single family home that's next door. And how that property is treated is understandably different. The question that the courts look at is there a reasonable basis to zone a property a particular way? And has the governing body considered that and determined that, yes, technically maybe this is spot zoning, but it's not illegal spot zoning because these are all the reasons we believe it's well suited for this use. and it should be treated differently than the neighboring properties. So it's not a spot zoning is always prohibited, it's not spot zoning is always allowed. You really have to look at the facts and circumstances of each piece of property. What has the past use been? Is it suited for the proposed new use? And is it reasonable to make the change that's being requested?
So would this be considered spot zoning?
I mean, I think it's been spot zoning since 1990.
Okay, so that hasn't changed any.
Right. It's been treated different from its adjacent property for a long time.
Christine, can you expand on that a little bit? Because I believe it's R1 currently. So zoning itself, it actually is consistent with its neighboring properties, correct? Its usage is different?
It's had a special use permit for, 30+ years that allows it to have a commercial use on the site. I believe it's commercial greenhouse is what the approved use is. So that would be my interpretation, is that, yes, that use is a different use from the neighboring properties. And so is that special use permit creating a spot zoning situation?
And that the courts have indicated that special use permits are in fact a form of zoning?
I mean, it's a condition of the zoning of the property.
Okay.
Other questions, council?
I actually have one for Matt, if I'm allowed. Matt Greiner. Do you have any idea about when, if we have any date for the adding curb and gutter to this road, 90?
93rd Court.
Yeah.
It's not in our current 5-year CIP. When we did 70th, we did stub sanitary sewer down the road or just inside the right of way there, so that in the future, whenever we did decide to come back and upgrade that road as well as the utilities, that we would be prepared for that.
The other question I have is parts of Johnston, we don't have, parts of Johnston, the older parts of Johnston, we don't have an ordinance that says you have to park on one side of the street, not the other. But we have been talking about getting that more formalized across the city. What side of the, if we incorporated that on this street, would it be west side or east side? I'm just curious.
A great question. Give me just a second.
And then my next question would be enforcement. Perhaps the officer could help out with this. My biggest concern with this this business is the parking on that residential road, and the issues that if there was overfull parking there and they couldn't get in a fire engine down the road because of all the parking, how could we manage that? We'd have to pass an ordinance, I'm assuming, that says parking can only be on one side of the street or the other. And then the enforcement of it would be ticketing. Is that, like if there was an event and people were parking illegally, then the police would have to be called, come out and ticket it, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we'd have to do. We'd have to bring this road in alignment with the other roads that we've enforced one-sided parking. And then if parking got out of hand, it would be this case. Go ahead.
So currently, we use the north or the east side of the roadway. Just looking real quick, the water main does reside on the east side of 93rd Street. So we would likely encourage no parking on the east side of 93rd so that we didn't block fire hydrants, those types of things.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Jacob as well, just because I want to understand. So today, this business operates as a retail business, correct?
It would operate as a greenhouse with the retail being accessory to that greenhouse.
Yeah. And so they have a retail element today. And the only thing that they're planning to change is to add the sale of beverages. And, correct?
That would be correct.
That's
yes.
your understanding. And so, but because of kind of the unique kind of legal requirements, in essence, they've been allowed to do a retail business at an R1, but because they want to just really make a small modification to the type of retail that they're doing, offering beverages. We're not talking about going from no retail to some retail. They already are currently doing retail. This is merely to modify that, expand it to offer beverages. They have to have the C1. Is that right?
Correct, but I would state that that retail is accessory to the greenhouse. So this would make that retail no longer have to be accessory to.
And that's
like
what triggers the C1?
Yes.
Okay, right. But, anyway, I just kind of wanted to make sure I was understanding that, though. The question is not, should a retail business be located there? A retail business is currently located there. It's a retail business that's accessory to the greenhouse use, but it is a retail business. So the question is not, should this retail business be located someplace else? The question is, should this retail business be able to modify their retail offerings to be able to offer something that isn't accessory to the greenhouse?
Correct.
Jacob, explain a couple of things. One is going to be a hypothetical here in a second, but the first of which is the special, as noted in the minutes from the planning and zoning, the special use permit exists with the property, not with the zoning, and so consequently, it will stay in effect and in force, correct?
That is correct.
So the commercial greenhouse usage has to remain in place, correct? Commercial greenhouse usage?
Yes, yes, it would take a board of adjustment. I believe I would.
Councilman Burkhauer, the only way really that the commercial greenhouse would go away is if that previous action was revoked. So that would be a separate process, in my opinion.
And the reason to either one of you, the reason why a second special use permit cannot be granted is why?
Because it's not allowed per our code. So on this table, what you're looking at when you see the SPR, that states site plan review. So if we go back up to where it says specialty food or coffee shop, it would take a site plan review. It's not under a special use, is not required, which is similarly, if you look at animal boarding, that would take a special use permit for that to be allowed in the C1, in this example, in the C1 district. So in the R1 100 district that it is in, specialty food and coffee is not an allowed special use.
Hypothetically, if they grew in their commercial greenhouse coffee trees, bushes, would serving coffee then be an accessory retail use of their greenhouse?
I'll let Rose.
Councilman Burkhart, that's a good question. I think the challenge is that we would need to be able to make a zoning determination that is an accessory use, just as retail, a home goods or accessory type use isn't that unusual for a greenhouse type use. You see it in other places around. It's kind of how it happens these days, not in all places. So I think it may be a bit farther stretched to say that the specialty beverage part is its own unique accessory to that, from my perspective, at least. I don't think that's as closely a one-to-one kind of ratio. Now, again, nothing is preventing them from, that's not the intent of their request, but nothing is preventing them from having beverages there, right? So it's part of a separate endeavor.
A neighbor commented on the potential impacts to WRA because of the food preparation or the drink preparation. Do we currently have any other establishments in the city that have to abide by some sort of WRA provisions with regard to wastewater? And I guess the follow-up question to that is, do those changes, if an establishment does, ever trigger something that's going to have to be an overhaul or a modification that then would cause the entire site to have to come up to compliance?
So what I would say to that is, any interior finish of a structure certainly requires permitting based on that type of use, that kind of occupancy. Tonight we are talking about zoning, so that is not withstanding any fire or building code requirements that would go to renovate, in this case, renovating a space. So what likely was being referred to is, certain food service establishments have various code requirements, grease interceptors, and that type of code review. That certainly, if this use is permitted there, and if they move forward with permitting, that is absolutely part of the normal permitting and code review that will have to occur.
I am, thank you.
I don't know if this question is for Rose or Christine, but what about what Angie Butler brought up, where they had petitions that were opposed to this project of more than 20% of the surrounding properties? Where does that land in terms of how it affects what we're discussing tonight?
Yeah, so even the petition that was submitted previously, that was included as an attachment before tonight, that already qualifies to cause a supermajority vote here. And it's not, just to be clear, it's not simply that 20% of the property owners within an area have signed the petition. It's that property owners representing 20% of the land area that is within a certain area. Now, in either case, there is a qualifying petition here.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jacob? Let me see if the applicants want to comment.
I think appreciate the dialogue. And I just back to a couple of things that I picked up, and I'm just going to share as commentary. I'm not the zoning administrator, but C1 is Johnson's neighborhood commercial. And then if we were to get approval, we've held off on anything about improving whatever, because we do know that until zoning allows the only reason we're here is because there was no other provision in Johnson Code to allow a conditional use for selling beverages, non-alcoholic beverages, but for selling beverages. And so in order to do that, yes, a grease interceptor would be required. It would go in the courtyard. We have a tap off of the sanitary sewer line. The grease interceptor would go in that courtyard within the confines of the site. But that would be all in compliance with not only the county, but also zoning issues. Otherwise, I think, and just to clarify, I think that the conversation has been good, and ultimately, up until this point, I think the thing to reiterate is that the items that were issued the last time, and I appreciate comment from our resident here that said, hey, the biggest concern was there another way to do it. We tried to pursue that other way of conditional use, and there isn't. We're just going to, we've requested C1. We initially had reduced the number of allowed, we took 2 off the top, which we knew were the hot buttons, and then it wasn't until the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that we realized, hey, we could strike 30 of the 32. We never even knew that we could approach it that way. So that's what we're doing, and we're just trying to navigate the process, not to change the use or anything else. And also, we do feel confidently, which it was a surprise to us, but if we take the 30 uses that would be allowed in the C1, also neighborhood commercial, it highly restricts it. And so I think that's, we're trying to do whatever we can to make sure that, hey, this is all we wanted to do. There was no other way to do it. And we feel like it accommodates, and we kind of got here through I guess, a challenging path. And so That was a request of the neighbors last time, and I think that we're doing what we can to be in conformance with that. And I do appreciate the comments of our neighbor. We do specifically care about our neighbors that are directly adjacent, and we're very cognizant of that. So I appreciate the comments from Peggy earlier tonight. And does anybody have any questions of me? I mean, this has been a good dialogue, but there's a lot out there.
Matt, I also had someone comment to me that what you're intending to do here is some sort of a drive-through coffee pickup. Could you just explain to us again what your vision is with respect to what you're proposing?
No, absolutely, Mayor. I think that's a great question. We're not sure where the drive-through came from, but there would be no changes to the site plan or the building structures on site. Again, we're trying to respect the character of this, which has been there for 35 years. Even the colors are comparable to what they were before. And so, and we opened up over 3,000 square feet of impervious surface and turned it back to grass and mulch. And so what we're trying to do is that this would be complementary to what's already available on site, respecting the bike path. And we have a bunch of people that go by this site daily that a lot of times stop that do use the bike path. And it's an integral part of where we are and how we engage clients, customers, however, neighborhood residents. And so this would be internal to the site, no other changes. It would be intended to support, and actually the person that is looking at the property would use this as kind of a little home base where they do deliver to teachers, they deliver to businesses in Johnston, and then they would have this that would have comparable hours to the store. There's no reason for it to be open any earlier or any later. It would be their primary function is when they are open, it would serve as a supplement to what's available at the store. There wouldn't be any reason for somebody to, I tell you what, in February, there's not gonna be people driving up and walking 200 feet to get to a Sips. And so it's something that is intended to support the store, its hours of operation, and they do have a business where they support and they deliver, and they would be using the 300 square foot space for that. So there's no drive-through. And just to clarify, the drive-through is only allowed in a C2 zoning, which is not what we've requested. So I'm not sure where that came from, but it's not even allowed in the C1. And of course, not allowed at all in a highly restricted C1 like we've requested. It's a great question. Thank you for that.
Any other questions for Matt? Okay. Council, have any other questions? If not,
Okay.
sure.
And this might be more so for Rose and Jacob. Is a liquor store or a tobacco store allowed in a retail space 50,000 square feet or smaller if they have an appropriate license through the state?
I don't believe it will be permitted there, but give me a second, I'll verify.
The definition of the small retail space merely says it has to be 50,000 square feet or smaller. It doesn't place restrictions on what the retail space is when I looked at the code. Speaking specifically off-premise sales.
Our code doesn't separately define a liquor store or retail alcoholic store. So in theory, subject to liquor licensing, it could. That is something that clearly the council could restrict through a zoning action.
So the answer would be yes, they could be if it was properly licensed facility or premise. Thank you for
And
indulging my
Rose,
question.
What action could we take tonight to make sure that that did not happen?
You would, I'll defer to Christine, but essentially you would want to restrict the sale of alcohol.
So a conditional rezoning ordinance is, like it sounds, it's a rezoning ordinance like any other, but there are conditions placed within the ordinance. The code requires that the property owner sign and approve those conditions before the close of the public hearing. So if the council wants to impose additional restrictions on those conditions, you could either have direct
We could
staff.
continue the public
Yeah,
hearing.
continue the public hearing would be the easiest way, so that that can all be well documented and signed. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to get that accomplished under the next few minutes.
Is that something that the council would entertain? So that we can continue to have this conversation?
Yeah, I would say yes. I'm certainly, I mean, as I look through it, you know, it talks about a bar or a drinking place. It's clearly not, as one of those C1 uses that would not be allowed, but, you know, a further restriction on the sale of liquor or tobacco is something that I would be fine with as part of a conditional use that the property owners would agree to. And
When you say sale of alcohol, is that sale of alcohol for consumption?
well,
What if they're selling local wines, you know, not for consumption at that time?
well, so I think that's where if you clearly, the way the sale of alcohol, they kind of make a distinction of sale for on-site consumption or for off-site consumption. So the fact that it talks about a bar or drinking place, and that would not be an allowed use. So clearly, a sale of alcohol for on-site consumption would, from my reading, would not be allowed.
It's already not allowed, so we
That-
wouldn't need to do that.
For on-site consumption,
Yeah,
correct.
right.
Right. I think the question is if they would sell alcohol for off-site consumption. There's, I think, some gray about whether that would be, you know, it's that or tobacco, you know, so that's, but clearly, from my reading of it, you know, the fact that we're specifically saying specialty food or coffee shop is an allowed use and no other C1 use is in that food and beverage category, and one of those categories is bar or drinking place. That clearly, from my standpoint, as I read it, means that they could not sell alcohol for on-site consumption.
Could they get a permit to have an event at which alcohol, not sold, but is provided to the guests?
Well, they can probably do that today.
Right.
Because their
Right,
whole.
so
their
they
whole-
could still do these events, yes.
Yeah, I mean, today, their whole, as I understood it, their issue is today, if they want to sell these beverages, it's the sale of the beverages that requires the C1 use. Giving them away is not an issue.
Okay.
Rose or Christine, do you agree, disagree, comments?
I mean, just based on looking at the definitions, I think I agree with Rose. There's nothing that would specifically prohibit a small retail liquor store unless that's a condition of the rezoning.
Well, I think we have an issue here that we need to work through. Are you?
I just want on record that we, as owners, are totally fine with the no alcohol rule. We do have no objection to that at all.
So procedurally, maybe we would table the,
We would continue the public hearing
and then
so that
allow,
they could work out the
Right?
additional condition and sign off on it and then bring it back.
The code would-
tonight,
yeah.
or would you, or do you envision it tonight?
We're fine
or-
doing that tonight. We can do that tonight.
It has to be signed before the close of the public hearing.
Can we accomplish that tonight, staff? Or would,
If you are are clear in just that we are, in addition to the two specialty, limiting it to specialty coffee and food store and small standalone store, retail and service, and then we are adding the prohibition on sale of alcohol on site. Is that, if that is accurate, I can go modify that.
I want to make sure we get it right. I mean,
Absolutely.
there isn't any reason why we have to, you know, expedite this and do it tonight. I just want to make sure that when we do it correctly.
Yeah, I'm happy to go add a third thing if that is the direction of the council, and if Christine wants to
Tobacco
look at it
products
before it's
also a
signed.
concern?
I would like to add tobacco and if there is language similar to vaping and other substances, because I know that seems to get into a technicality, I would like those to be considered as well.
Absolutely.
A clarity sake, this is Matt Brown. Vape shops are also not allowed. So I agree with Councilman Cope and Martin. I think we're going down the path of some of these things are already restricted. I just want to be clear, we're happy with, there is no intention for us, and I see the concern of the residents to restrict it in the future. We want to maintain the fabric of what's there. That is our intent. And so ultimately, if it's, I believe it's on-site consumption of alcohol and tobacco and sale of the product. I think Councilman Martin, yes, there have been opportunities where we have had a vineyard that's been on site that has offered samples, and they've also sold their product, but they have a license specifically for that, and it's not consumed on site. So I just want to make sure we're not creating some monster of a thing that says that, hey, it's only for consumption on site. Yeah, we're fine with that. That we have no objections to that whatsoever. But yeah, vape, Councilman Burkhart, vape and others are the restrictions that we have excluded from the overall in the 30 item.
Matt,
I'm not seeing that.
I'm not seeing the vape restriction, so could you highlight that one?
Forgive me, I assumed it was. I thought it was part of the list, so that's fine. Yes, then I would say included. I was thinking it was part of it.
Yeah, I don't see it specifically listed. And
Okay,
so
yeah,
if we're
bad on
going to
me.
go through the process, and I think it would be
Okay,
good.
yeah, there is no intention for that in any of the operations that we have, so, yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure we don't exclude the opportunity that if there is a vineyard, that's not part of the regular offering, but if there is a vineyard, they are properly licensed to do that, they could sell that product.
That's why I don't want to rush this. I mean, I want to make sure that we get this
Sure.
right.
Absolutely.
We could go on with we could continue this, go on with the rest of the agenda and come back to this if we feel like we're at a point where we can take some action. So, do we have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
I'm sorry, what are we voting on?
We're just continuing the public hearing.
Because we paused it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
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 Motion passed.
So I just want to understand, so that it is kind of an expectation that staff would work with the Browns in the next few minutes to come back with
If they
something?
can get it.
Okay, I just want
done.
to make
If
sure
not,
that's kind of the.
They'll
and
come
even-
back and report, and then we'll
Right, okay, yeah,
either further continue it or take action.
okay.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Reddy?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7A, consider third and final consideration, adoption and publishing of ordinance number 1144, establishing the Highway 141 Northwest Saylorville Drive Area Sanitary Sewer Connection District.
Staff has received no additional comments, and we're recommending final approval.
Any questions, comments, council? If not, do we have a motion to approve third and final consideration and to adopt and publish?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7B, consider third and final consideration, adoption and publishing of ordinance number 1145, establishing a separate sewer user charge for users located in the Highway 141 Northwest Saylorville Drive Area Sanitary Sewer Connection Fee District.
Staff received no additional comments and is recommending final approval.
Council have any questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion to approve third and final consideration and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1145?
So, second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, consider second consideration of ordinance number 1149, an official zoning map amendment to rezone 1.486 acres from R4 High Density Mixed Residential District to M1 Light Industrial District.
Good evening. Staff has not received any additional comments or concerns from surrounding neighbors, and nothing has changed from the initial application.
Council have any questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1149?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember, Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7D, consider second consideration of ordinance number 1150, an official zoning map amendment to rezone 1.816 acres from R4 high density mixed residential district to M1 light industrial district.
Similar to the previous item, staff has not received any additional comments or concerns from neighbors, and the application has not changed from the initial application.
Council have any questions or comments? Not, do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1150?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7E, consider resolution number 25-275, approving a site plan for the Lithia Audi Building Addition and Service Entrance Project located at 5190 Merle Hay Road.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We have a site plan application from Lithia VAU DM Incorporated. This is the Lithia Audi Dealership and Service Center at 5190 Merle Hay Road. Here is the general overview of the property as it exists today. There are several buildings on this property. It's multiple dealerships. Right here where my cursor is, this is the actual Audi building. They are proposing a 2,720 square foot building addition on the western side of the building, if you can see my cursor there. I'll have sheets that go into more detail later on. They are also making an alignment change to their drive entrance for their service center on the northeast end of their building also. The current property is Zone C3 Regional Commercial Districts. District supports medium and high intensity commercial uses. As proposed, all uses proposed with this building addition would meet the zoning district that exists today. Here's the existing layout of the building and service entrance right now. The service building addition to the west would take up this existing parking row, and they would move this existing trash enclosure on the west side. Currently for the northeast side of the building where they have this service entrance that comes at a diagonal, they would shift this to just being a straight line. And I can show this on one of the other sheets. As you can see on this sheet, they have the proposed building addition that aligns with the current alignment of the building. It would take up those parking stalls, but they would still have maneuverability on site. For the drive entrance to the northeast, they would be able to enter in straight off, and they wouldn't have that curve to the north. The building addition would meet all bulk standards, setback standards within the zoning districts. They would move the trash enclosure to a little bit more to the west here. There was a site plan approved for this site. In 2013, it was PZ case 1326. It did establish the plantings and required trees on site. Those trees and all plantings will be added to the site as they weren't existing today. They are removing a tree on the southwest corner of the building. This does trigger the requirement for 5 replacement trees. And that was part of the recommendation that came for Plan and Zoning Commission. They did submit a revised landscaping plan that I can get to here in a sec. But in terms of materials, I can bring up their elevation sheets also, just to give the council an idea of what they're proposing. Right here, this is the back end of the building addition that they're putting up. Here's the side view too. This will match the existing brick that's on the north end of the Audi Service Center entrance. It is a Class A material. It is a thin brick. It is indistinguishable from full dimension brick, so it does qualify as a Class A material. But it will meet the general character of the existing building on site. In terms of the new trash enclosure, that will be a masonry construction. It will match the character of the building also. Here's some site photos just to give council some context on what's existing now. This is the existing parking road that will be taken up by the building addition. This is the tree that will be removed that requires mitigation for the 5 trees planted. And here's that entrance and an idea, an example of what that building material looks like for the brick right now. Here's their revised landscape plan that was submitted after Plan and Zoning Commission and later last week. It shows all the replacement trees here on the north end of that service entrance, and they are adding an additional tree to the west side also. These trees will be off our desirable tree list and will meet all of our landscape requirements.
I have a question. In 2024, there were 6 street trees along Merle Hay Road. You can see 2 of them shown in this plan. And now I believe in 2025, there are only 2 trees left. Did you include those when you surveyed how many trees needed to be on the site plan?
They were out of the project area, but we can go back with the applicant and double check on what was existing on the previous site plan and what is existing today.
I would not be in favor of moving this forward, or I guess it's gonna, is this one that we're gonna vote on just the one time, right? Not, because it's not a zoning project.
The resolution.
This is a concern of mine. It may be off the exact property for this building, but it's the same owner. And there used to be 6 nice trees along there, and only 2 are left, and I believe those are required as far as I'm concerned. So I will be a no unless we can get them to agree to put all 6 back, or make it back to 6, at least 6 shade trees. And I also have to say, I don't want maples.
I'm not sure if there's a member from the applicant here, but if there if the street trees are listed on a previously approved site plan too, we can have zoning enforcement to ensure that those are planted again also.
I would expect them to bring it up to at least the standard it was when it was originally platted. Thank you.
Matt, is it possible those trees might have been removed with the road construction, reconstruction along there?
The trees are between the sidewalk and the property, not between the sidewalk and the back curb. So we would have had to been way into their site.
But regardless, it's in the site plan, they're required to replace them, and it's a matter of just enforcing that. Oh.
Shive Hattery, civil engineer. Yeah, we're happy to meet the original site plan approval, so we're willing to work to that.
Well, I guess what I would ask is, those trees were there a couple years ago. I'd like them to be, and they're gone now. So it could be that we only required 5 trees, but you planted 6 because you were generous. I would like them to be all 6. So if you would go back to the previous, 2022 Google map and take a look at that date, I think you can see how many trees there were.
Yeah, to my knowledge, we'd be required to meet the previous site plan approved. So
I might be picky, but I'm just trying to cover all bets.
agreed, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we would refer back to the approved site plans.
Any other questions or concerns? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 25-275?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Reddy?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7F, consider third and final consideration, adoption and publishing of ordinance number 1147. Providing, this is the one that you're supposed to read, Josh.
Always me.
Providing that general property tax is levied and collected each year on all property located within the Windsor Fields Urban Renewal Area in the City of Johnson, County of Polk, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Johnson, County of Polk, Johnson Community School District, and other taxing districts be paid to a special fund for the payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to, and indebtedness, including bonds issued to or to be issued incurred by the city in connection with the Windsor Fields Urban Renewal Area, the Windsor Fields Urban Renewal Plan. Josh.
Mayor and council. Again, this is, the council has approved the urban renewal area. Think of that as the foundation. This is now the TIF district, allowing us to collect that increment if there's a project and enter into conversations with the developers to incentivize development in this area. It's a business park, a business area that's been striving to grow. And so staff sees it necessary for this TIF district to be in place to have those conversations. Staff has not received any public comments throughout the process regarding this proposal.
Any questions for Josh?
So Josh, basically whatever our standard TIF policy would be, how we would treat potential opportunities in this. If a developer comes forward, our sort of starting point would be whatever our typical TIF policy is, as opposed to like in the certain parts of the community we've identified kind of more robust.
Correct.
But this currently we haven't identified that. Is that
Correct.
a fair way
Yep.
to say that? Okay. Not that it couldn't, but at this point we haven't done that.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's helpful to know. Thank you.
And Josh, did you say whether or not we've had any additional comments on this?
There's been no public comment throughout this entire process.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on it? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve third and final consideration, adoption, and publishing of ordinance number 1147?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7G, consider third and final consideration, adoption, and publishing of ordinance number 1146, amending sections 165.01, 165.02, 176.14, 177.01, and table 168.2 of the Johnson Code of Ordinances.
There are no changes and there's been no public comment.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve third and final consideration, adopting and publishing ordinance number 1146?
I move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7H, consider third consideration and adopting and publishing ordinance number 1148, PZ case 25-14, text amendment to modify section 190 of the Johnson zoning code to be consistent with state legislation effective July 1, 2025.
Again, there are no changes and we have not received any public comment.
Council have any questions? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve third consideration and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1148?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7I, consider approval of claims in the amount of $2,180,388.55.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. Good to you?
Can you reopen?
We have a motion to reopen the public hearing on the first reading of ordinance number 1154.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed.
So there is an updated conditional rezoning ordinance that has been provided and signed by the applicant. It rezones the property from R1 large lot residential to C1 neighborhood commercial district with conditions. The conditions are no uses other than those listed below as defined by Chapter 16502 of the Municipal Code shall be allowed on the property. In no case shall the sales of alcohol, tobacco, and vaping products be permitted on the property. And then the two permitted uses are 1, specialty coffee and food store, and 2, small standalone store, retail or service. And then it's signed by the property owner.
Council have any questions? Is there any additional comments from the audience?
Mayor, can I just ask for a clarification? I just want to make sure that I fully understand, because I know we had some concern from commenters. Even now, the special provisions that we have added would persist if this property changed hands. The only way to remove any of those, to open this up for other uses, would be council action, and what would that action have to entail?
So to change the permitted uses on the property, there are two layers on this piece of property specifically. One is the zoning, which is this conditional rezoning ordinance. Like any other zoning action, if a change was made to this, it has to go through the whole process. So it has to go to P&Z, has to come to council. It would be an ordinance amending the zoning district or the permitted uses within the conditional zoning district. Separate and distinct from this is the commercial greenhouse, which is allowed through a Board of Adjustment action. And there's an approved site plan through the Board of Adjustment action. So if anything changed related to those items, those would go to Board of Adjustment. Those would not come to you.
Thank you.
So there's kind of two layers.
Thanks.
Any other questions, council? So Rose, could you just explain again what this would allow the Browns to do?
Yes, if adopted, this would, sorry, I'm opening my file. This would permit 2 of the uses that are permitted in a C1 district, being the specialty coffee and food store and the small standalone store, comma, retail or service. And it also explicitly prohibits the sale of alcohol, tobacco, or vaping products on the property as drafted.
And you're, find that acceptable? Okay. Council, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. At the appropriate time, I intend to move approval of the proposed rezoning. And these rezonings are always challenging, and this one especially has some unique challenges. The fact that 93rd Court or Street, I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's so narrow, that certainly is a complicating element to it. And the fact that I think it's, the fact that this business is located along a very busy very busy street, 70th, makes it a natural to be in a neighborhood commercial area. But it also abuts this narrow street. So those are some really complicating factors for it. But I think I've heard some things here tonight that I think make me comfortable in approving this. One, I think the change that we're approving is really a very narrow change to the type and scope of retail activity that's going to happen at the business. They're all, by making this change, it adds their ability to sell beverages. It doesn't dramatically expand the retail uses at the location. So that gives me a significant level of comfort. Also, I think, and we've heard from folks who live there, that the business owners have worked really hard to manage the parking. And I think the testimony we heard from neighbors on that was very compelling. So for those reasons, I will, at the appropriate time, support the rezoning. But I really appreciate the dialogue, and very legitimate concerns have been brought forward tonight. But I do believe that the Browns have worked hard to take those issues into account. And I think especially we hear of a desire to have more locally owned businesses in our community. This is an example of that. And so therefore I'm supportive of it.
I would like to make some comments. This one is a tough one for me. I tend to be that person that, even though I agree with all the things about changing a zoning, if there's a lot of people that show up and oppose it, I usually am, I will follow their wishes. It's a little different in this case in that it was a greenhouse for 30 years or whatever, and it's still a greenhouse. They may not actively be growing the plants, but Chuck Rennis, he had other greenhouses at other places in the city, and he would just bring his material over there because it basically was a retail outlet for him. He couldn't really grow a lot of his product there, it just was too small. And I do have to appreciate the Browns for a very beautiful building that's there. And I understand the opposing spot zoning, but there are exceptions, and in this case, continuing to have a locally owned, glad you brought that up, a locally owned business that relates to greenhouse and gifts. I mean, we lost the Hallmark store on Merle Hay Road a few years ago, and I always miss those places where you can just run in and get a birthday gift to go to a party or something. The things that concerned me was parking. It's a big deal. Parking, I've been on that street. I've walked up and down that street, and I know that I've driven my car on people's grass because I wanted to get over as far as possible. So my concern would be if their events start happening, that the parking by their guests start to harm that road and harm people's yards. I think that we can manage that. We can manage that with an ordinance about the parking on one side, and then we can put, everybody on notice. If you violate where you can park, if you're on people's yard, you're gonna get a ticket. And I think that the neighbors will run that way. So I think the parking was an issue for me. Things about the noise, the lights, that can be controlled by your limiting the times of your events. And frankly, I always thought it would be a great idea to have this kind of place there. In fact, I told my sisters, let's buy that place and park a food truck in the parking lot and sell plants. And then in the winter, we'd close up and go somewhere else. I didn't get it done. You guys got it done. And so I'm gonna, and I have friends who live on this road, and I'm gonna vote against it. I'm gonna support this local business, and they've done all they could to address the issues. I think we can manage it, so that's my thoughts.
I also would like to speak on this. I'll cut to the chase because we've been here a long time, and I want to thank everybody who's involved with this, especially the neighbors around it, for doing ardent research in that regard. I am going to vote in support of this. Coming from another narrow street in the city of Johnston, who just underwent one side of the street parking now, I would highly support whatever endeavor that you want to pursue from that standpoint. And it does start most officially with the residents and neighbors in that environment. I also think to some extent, and I have to reflect back to when I first ran and was elected to council on trying to build community. And I have also had the opportunity to experience that building of community through Charlie Ray's, through graduation parties, things along those lines. I know it is not without impact to your neighborhood, however, and so I do not say that lightly. And I hope that we can continue to be mindful of that, both with traffic, but also this entire process to kind of heighten that awareness to our property owners and to that business owner from that standpoint. I don't want anyone getting hurt. I don't want anyone certainly getting any kind of property damage based on the popularity of that business. And so I'd ask that you continue to be vigilant, good neighbors, even when you're not necessarily asking for something directly in that capacity.
I'd like to echo what Councilwoman Martin and Councilperson Brian Burkett said. The neighborhood has a very concern about the traffic, lights and everything. And I think you answered those questions and what time you open and everything else. So I think mostly that should answer all of the questions that the neighbors had. And as you being Mr. Brown, you're a very city council member, ex-city council member, you should be aware of all of these things that happen. So I think at this point, I don't see a lot of concerns, but going future, make sure the neighbors are well informed and anything happens like that. I'm certainly supportive of this. Appreciate it.
Well, I'll just add, and I don't want to repeat what's already been said because I agree with what my colleagues up here at the dais have already suggested. But I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I want to thank you for attending the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as well. I think that because of your input, we really have narrowed this in a way that accomplishes exactly what the Browns were hoping to accomplish when they made their request. But it addresses, I think, the concerns that you raised tonight, as well as previously at the Planning and Zoning Commission. I will say that when the Browns first talked about buying this property and shared what their vision was, I did say to them at the time, "Are you going to sell coffee?" Because they created this vision of this little shop where they would sell home goods, and I thought, well, wouldn't that be a great place to stop on a Saturday morning and just sit down and have coffee and kind of look around and see what little gifts they had to offer for the particular season. So, I'm not going to take the credit or the blame for them appearing before us tonight and making this request, but it was part of what I thought their vision might have been from the very beginning. So anyway, if there isn't any additional comment from the council, I will ask if there is a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 1154.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. Again, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. We still have just a couple of items on the agenda. The first is city administrator staff comments.
I don't have any updates this evening, just to tell everyone happy Thanksgiving next week and hopefully safe travels.
I do have one comment. I just wanted to update council that we did, Public Works staff did get the rectangular rapid flashing beacon installed at the trail crossing on Johnston Drive. It
I
is
heard about
installed
that.
and functional.
Much appreciated.
Nice.
Thank you.
Any other staff comments? City council comments. Councilmember Evans.
Nothing, thanks.
Councilman
Yeah, this morning, a few of us visited the Johnston School District, myself, Councilman Cope, and the mayor. It was actually illuminating to know what's happening in the Johnston Community School District, and they walked us through three of those new initiatives that are started. Launch, JTP, and what's the one?
Excel, I think.
Yeah.
Excel, that's one, right, yes. So it's a really good initiative that started past 1 year. I think they used to share with Urbandale and a few other places. Now they've started on their own in this building itself in Wallace Elementary, the former Wallace Elementary. That was really good initiative they showed. And one of the things that I kind of observed was that the launch program with the disabled students between the age of 18 and 21, they try to teach them how to evolve with the social world, the social life when they are out there. And one of the things they mentioned was the local businesses also employ them to make sure they have gainful employment after they move. And that gave me a pause on thought, it gave me a thought on that. As city council, can we do something more on that? Can we talk with the businesses, see if we can make something more happen for those kids? I know it's just a thought. I know this is just need to be, the idea needs to be evolved much more than this, but it is something that we can make it happen with those disabled kids, students, basically. So we can. And I was told that one of the businesses that they do work with is that BBB, the one
Triple Bs.
Jethro, former Jethro. They work with those kids.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something we should probably help them out. Maybe we should propagate this to different businesses in the city, make sure they have gainful employment. So that's an idea that's popped up when I was talking to them. That something needs to be thought more. Yeah.
And let me just ask the question, and I'll turn to both you and Councilman Cope. The superintendent did share that they're going to have an open house to show the public the changes that they've made over at the administrative offices and talk about the new programming that they've that they've put in place over there. I didn't write down the
I
date or the
didn't
time.
either, but yeah, if we find it,
Yeah,
we can
we need to,
circulate it,
yeah, we need to circulate it because I looked out on their website today after I got home and I couldn't find it either. But I think it would be great if the rest of you could just stop in for that open house and just see the improvements that they made and also learn about the new programming because they're doing some amazing things there.
Right, and one of the discussions also came up that they said, I asked them a question, how can the city help with them? And they said, we had discussion with the city, but we probably need to have that focused discussion rather than a overall discussion, maybe focused on a few things and see how we can help how the city can help with the scope. That way, we'll make some headway.
Councilman Coe.
Yeah, thank you, Suresh, for those comments. You know, my kids both started out at when that building was Wallace Elementary School. So it's fun to walk in there and see how they really are using that space in some great ways. And so, you know, I think obviously we all hold the school district in very high regard, but the stuff we saw today was really, really impressive. And so, and hopefully, I mean, you all are very plugged into all that too. So it was really good. So thank you.
Councilman Burkhart.
Nothing to add.
Councilwoman Martin.
I guess this is our first city council meeting after re-election, so thank you everybody who voted for the mayor and Jim and I. Appreciate it. I think it goes to show that you appreciate our work, at least I hope. My only comment was it was a beautiful day Saturday and my neighbors were out grinding their sidewalks and putting in their caulking and I mean, everybody's out there doing their part, not wanting to add to the load. My husband was happy he got passed on all our items too, so. We're doing our part, fixing up our sidewalks.
So we're redoing the sidewalks in our neighborhood, and right around the corner from our house, they'd freshly poured a concrete path, and a dog had run into this area, and then quickly the dog owner had walked on it too.
Oh, jeez.
And so my wife and I were like,
Is this an admission?
no, I feel really good because our dog, we have little bitty dogs and these paw prints are pretty deep. But you should have seen, my wife and I, you would have appreciated this, Officer Norrie. We were like trying to forensically figure out how it all went down, you know, and did the dog, I think the dog saw a squirrel, ran out there. But anyway, it's a little unfortunate, but we took some photos and the whole bit. So we're happy to help if there is a law enforcement angle there for you, Officer Norrie.
Just a couple of additional things. About a month ago, we recognized Diwali here at the City Council by issuing a proclamation and celebrating with our Indian community. Since then, there's been other Diwali celebrations. Suresh and I both attended one in West Des Moines at Stillwell, is that middle school?
Stillwell Junior.
Yeah. Middle school over there where they performed a lot of classical dance and traditional music, which was incredible. Very, you know, performers of all ages did an amazing job, you know, bringing in the diversity of the culture in India. And last Saturday night, I was invited to another Diwali celebration up at Iowa State. The Indian
Cultural Association.
The
I see
Indian
it.
Cultural Association?
Yes.
The Student Cultural Association or something like that. Anyway, they put on a program and it was quite a contrast to what we saw in West Des Moines because these young people, their music was more contemporary, their dress style was more contemporary. You know, it was fun to see.
Yeah.
You know, even though they were both celebrating the same holiday and celebrating with, you know, the Indian culture, just the contrast in how they did that. So again, I would just recommend if you have an opportunity in the future, get one or both of those events on your calendar because they were both very, very well done. So And I would also add that in addition to our elections here in the city of Johnston, they had the second round of municipal elections in Kosovo a week ago. If the mayors in the municipalities there didn't get over 60% before, they had to run for reelection again. And the mayor Pea had to do that, and he did win by something like 62% of the vote. So he is in again for another 4-year term. So, and in addition to that, all of the other sister cities or cities in Iowa that have sister city relationships in Kosovo, all of their mayors in Kosovo were reelected as well. So a lot of stability there in those relationships that we have with our Kosovo friends. So
60% of the people voting or 60% of the eligible voters?
60% of the people voting. Yeah, they have a little higher bar than we have.
Yeah, I
here in the
can't
United
imagine.
States. So anyway, anything else for the good of the order? If not, we are adjourned.